Hey everybody, Spencer here from Geek of Spades, and today I want to talk to you about another game that makes me feel really nostalgic. This time I'm talking about Endless Fantasy Tactics. This is made by the fine folks at On the Lam Games, who also make Brushfire, which is a pretty cool looking game, I have to admit. The reason this game makes me feel nostalgic is not because it's a remake of an old game that I loved like Warzone, but because it reminds me of old school turn-based RPGs that you played on the Super Nintendo and on the Game Boy. More specifically, it reminds me of Final Fantasy Tactics, which, while technically not that old, is the best Final Fantasy game to come out since 6. So, Endless Fantasy Tactics then. It's good. It's a fun little game, and it's pretty cool. Obviously, the major draw of it is the nostalgia feel. The fact that it plays like an old school video game. Your characters have health points, and they have mana points, and everything about it just sort of evokes that classic Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy Tactics style of game, which is cool because I love those kinds of games. So, as always, let's start with the rulebook. It's not bad. It's not the best rulebook I own, but then I'm kind of spoiled for rulebooks if you haven't seen. It's still a good little rulebook, and when I say little, I mean little. It's not very big. I guess my major qualm with it is that the paper inside feels a little cheap, but you know, I didn't pay a whole lot for it, so I can't really complain too much. Now, I got into Endless Fantasy through their first Kickstarter, and I didn't get the rulebook from it. I got PDFs of the rulebook, and I had to buy a print copy later on. Not complaining. It's still worth it. And I was honestly really surprised when I got a hold of the rulebook, both the digital and the print copy, because the first 20 some odd pages, almost 30 pages of this book, are fluff. And when I went into it, I wasn't expecting a lot of fluff. I wasn't expecting a lot of background and a lot of setting, but damn, they really went out of their way to give this thing a good setting, and it's pretty cool in a nostalgic kind of way. Now, despite my qualm about the paper quality not being so great, at least it's in full color. And this book gives you everything you need to play. It's got all the stats for all the different models, it's got all the rules, it's got all the background, it even has a campaign system of all things. I'm going to touch on the campaign a little bit more in a second, but let's talk about the actual rules of the game. Simply put, they're good. They're nice and they're simple and they're not stupidly overcomplicated. Like games I've mentioned in all the video game references I've been making, it is a grid-based system and characters move on a grid. One of the coolest things about the rules, though, is that there is no factions, so you can build your party out of whatever models you just think look coolest. Now, this does lead to a situation where there are some, I hesitate to use the word broken, but there are some pretty cheese combinations. I can't lie, the chemist and the thief as a combo is pretty jank. I mean, it's just ridiculous how good it is. And I'm sure somebody's going to call me a hypocrite because I own both those models, but I got both of them before I ever knew what they did, so, you know, there's that. Still, I like that you can kind of just mix and match everything. There's no set factions for how you have to build your force. You can pick whatever models you like, whatever characters you like, and that's cool because you can have a bunch of low-level wizards running around with a dragon if you really put your mind to it. Now, one of the cool things is when you pick a model to add to your force, they all have a list of commands that they can pick from, and I'm going to touch on that a lot more in depth when I end up doing a learn to play for this game, but just to give you a quick overview, anyway, the basics of how it works is every model has a cost, either 1, 2, or 3 crystals, which is their points. And depending on the number of points they cost, you get to pick a certain number of commands. Now, some of these are passive abilities that are always going on. Others require that you spend mana points to use them, which is where putting your team together in a smart way actually comes in handy because certain models can give back MP to other models. So I like that because there's enough in here for each different model that you really shouldn't end up playing the same one over and over and over and over and over and over unless you're a horrible human being. There's enough variety and enough ways to do a whole lot of different things and try new tactics just simply by checking off a different box that it really feels full, and I love that. And the combat's pretty simple too. You can either do a basic attack where you roll as many dice as your attack value and the defender rolls as many dice as their defend value, or you can use one of your commands. And a lot of times these will combine stats, so you might have an ability that allows you to make an attack that's attack plus your magic, so you roll that many dice. And when you're attacking, you need a 4 up to hit. When you're defending, you need a 5 up to defend. And so it really does add a kind of back and forth, and with synergy and model combinations, you can make some guys really hard to kill. The aforementioned Thief plus Chemist combo is pretty crazy in that it can make the Thief really difficult to kill, and he's really, really good at killing things. So I mentioned earlier that this game has a campaign system built into it, and it's actually a pretty smart little campaign system. So basically the way it works is when you set up your campaign, everybody starts with a 2 crystal model that's their group leader, and then they have 3 1 crystal models. And the cool thing is, as you progress and as your models do more and as you survive missions and you gain experience, your 1 crystal guys can be upgraded into 2 crystal guys. So like the squire can become a knight, or the adept can become a wizard or a sorcerer or what have you. And it's really kind of cool because it gives you a feel of them actually progressing, and it still feels very old school video gamey. I mean, come on. There's even a Pokemon reference in here. So yeah, rules-wise, Endless Fantasy Tactics is a ton of fun. Now, being a miniatures game, I am obligated to talk about the miniatures, but the miniatures are really difficult to talk about. Not because I don't like them, but because there's so much contention about whether or not they're good. I have 6 of them I got from the last Kickstarter. I happen to quite enjoy them. Yeah, they're not as detailed as, say, Warhammer miniatures or War Machine miniatures or the Warzone miniatures. Man, there are a lot of miniatures games with the word war in it, aren't there? Simply put, they're not super high detailed miniatures, but they're not supposed to be, I think. They really do evoke an old school retro game feel, and that's what they were setting out to do with the game. So it's a real big matter of opinion. I happen to quite like a lot of the miniatures. There are some I'm not too fond of. The Knight I feel is a little goofy looking, and I don't really care for the gels. I mean, they're just not me. But of the ones I got, I like all of them. The only issues I had with them were a couple of assembly issues where I had to file off parts that were in very tricky places. In fact, my Thief snapped at the ankles while I was cleaning them, and I had to glue them back together. Otherwise, though, they're really nice little models. They're very fun, they're very characterful, and they paint up pretty well. I do want you to note one thing, though. All the models I just showed you are mine, but were not painted by me, because my painting is crap. So if you've got some money kicking around, I highly suggest picking up the Endless Fantasy Tactics rulebook, giving it a look through, maybe pick up a couple of models. Really, you only need 6 of them to do full-on demos of the game. So what do you lose, really? So if you want something that's fun, something that's old school, and something that just is a good way to kill some time, Endless Fantasy Tactics is probably the best miniatures game on the market for it. Alright, so real quick before I wrap this up, I do want to make a point. As of this recording, the day I recorded this, May 11th, 2014, their second Kickstarter for Endless Fantasy Tactics, called the Miasma War, has 13 days left, and it's a little over halfway to its goal. So if you're looking to get into this, there are great ways through that Kickstarter, because there are plenty of pledges that will get you not only the rulebook I have, but also the Miasma War expansion, and you can get miniatures on top of that. So if you're really interested in this game, go check out their Kickstarter. I will have a link right here for you to click. There'll even be one in the description box just in case. So go check it out. Show them some love. If you're interested, do it. Because frankly, some of the miniatures they're going to make for the Miasma War Kickstarter look awesome, and I really, really want them. So that's it for Endless Fantasy Tactics. Awesome little game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to keep it here to Geek of Spades for more videos, more reviews, including the Learn to Play for Endless Fantasy Tactics. Also, don't forget you can follow the links below to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I promise we're going to make better use of those soon. So, thanks for watching. Stick around, and I'll see you guys later.